We are very pleased to have with us today Jorge Moreira da Silva, who is the Executive Director of the United Nations Office for Project Services, or UNOPS, who is joining us from Jerusalem to speak about his trip to the region. Mr. Moreira da Silva, welcome.
Thank you, Farhan. Pleasure to meet you. I just left Gaza literally a few minutes ago. Arrived here in Jerusalem. That was part of a visit to the Middle East that started in Doha. Then I went to Jordan, Ramallah, Jerusalem, and today Gaza. As you know, UNOPS is one of the agencies playing an important role in Gaza. For instance, we bring the fuel and we distribute the fuel to the bakeries, to the hospitals, to the schools, to the decentralization. We support the other UN agencies in these efforts. We also manage the so-called 2720 mechanism that may look a bit technocratic in terms of jargon, but basically that's an enabler for trust and transparency. Through that mechanism, we have been approving the aid that goes to Gaza, ensuring that what is coming Gaza reflects the real needs inside Gaza, and we put monitors on the ground also to ensure all accountability and transparency. If you go to our website, the 2720.org, you will see what is approved, what is rejected, and this has been very important in terms of accountability in these operations for not just for the last few months, but for the last few years. We also provide support on mine action. We work under the chapeau of UNMAS, supporting demining, removing the unexploded ordnance, training the civilians on how to deal with those risks. And this has been, as you know, very important for operations on rubble removal. It's impossible to remove rubble if you don't assess how dangerous it is to touch the rubble, taking consideration how dangerous it could be related with the unexploded ordnance. So today, of course, with my team, I wanted to see our operation, but also to identify the needs. We all know that the new plan for Gaza, the new arrangement endorsed by the Security Council, creates a new window for hope, for reconstruction. But we also know that we can't wait for the reconstruction to do whatever it is possible and required tomorrow or today. And this was precisely the intent of my mission, not to look to what is needed in 2, 3, 4 years, but looking to is needed immediately, today and tomorrow. The discussion on the billions is crucial, the 52 billions that are required for the reconstruction, but can we also have a conversation about the millions that must be provided immediately? That requires not only finance, but requires political will and capacity. So in the visit today, that was accompanied by the resident coordinator, Humanitarian Coordinator, we had the chance to see the massive devastation in Gaza. It's my third time visiting Gaza since the beginning of the war. Every time I go to Gaza, I get more impacted, saddened by what I see. And today, I could see hope in the eyes of the children. I saw more children smiling than I saw 9 months ago, but I saw those children without shoes, without the chance to go to the school, being on the middle of the rubble, living in tents that are not proper, not safe, living in the buildings that are in the risk of collapsing. So obviously the devastation in Gaza is massive. More than 80% of the infrastructure is on the ground. People are living in inhuman conditions, in tents with no conditions. Most of the tents have no conditions. With the flooding, with the massive storms and heavy rains in the last 2 days, we could see the impact on the ground. Also, the fact that people had to go to escape to the heavy rain because the tents are not strong enough to deal with such severe weather. They have to go to buildings that are not only with a risk of collapsing, but also with the risk of containing unexploded ordnance. So this is a picture that is bringing the hope, the fact that people feel safer because are not dealing with the kind of strikes and bombing that they were dealing before, gives hope. The fact that there is now political will to bring a new development to Gaza brings hope, but at the same time, what I heard today from the people is we need water, we need electricity, we need waste management, we need rubble removal, we need sanitation, we need demining, we need shelters. And this is we need schools, we need hospitals. And this is my key message, Farhan, is let's not waste 1 minute on what is possible to do immediately. Let me give you a few examples of what I visit, what I witnessed, and what I collected in terms of findings. Electricity. I went to the Gaza power station. For many years, the Gaza power station was the main pillar of the electricity production in Gaza. Electricity lines coming from Israel and the Gaza power station. Both the lines and the power station were stopped with the war. I went to the power station, and today, as you know, there is no electricity in Gaza. The only electricity in Gaza is coming from the fuel that we bring that are used on the generators to produce electricity. So I went to the power station with my team of engineers, and we have conducted, the team of course before I came, have conducted an assessment. What is needed to put the power station functioning again? $10 million. So my question is because of $10 million that we are not able to provide electricity that is so crucial for the people? So shall we just discuss the 52 billion? Can't we bring the 10 million immediately to repair the power station? I also went to the areas where my team is doing some demining. And I could witness again the impact of the rubble. 60 million tons of rubble. There is no other place in the world where in such a small area you have this kind of volume of rubble. The problem with the rubble is not just the volume. As I said, today Gaza is rubble and tents. It's rubble and tents. But the problem is not just the volume, the problem is what it's in the content of the rubble. Asbestos, potentially there. Mines, unexploded ordnance. Unfortunately, human remains. So the problem with the rubble removal is not just, bringing some capacity to shift the rubble. It requires technical capacity to assess the risks and to provide the solutions. Another example is the need to conduct damage assessment of the buildings. Those buildings that are still not totally devastated are today being used by lots of people and families. So it's important, it's fundamental to assess this risk. So making this long story short, we need to bring more fuel, because fuel is life today in Gaza. We need more predictable, an increasing volume of fuel. We need rubble removal, demining, rehabilitation of the networks, water, sanitation, electricity, the rehabilitation of the power station, the provision of shelters. But we also need, and I would conclude with this, we also need to open all crossings and ensure that all corridors are full functioning. I got stuck inside Gaza. There is nothing like the experience of being inside Gaza when you have today more trucks coming to Gaza. The operation won't be efficient if we just count trucks, if we just monitor the trucks, and we don't address the real conditions of the distribution of the goods and the commodities inside Gaza. The congestion inside Gaza is immense because today there is only 3 crossings, and inside Gaza, only a few roads are able to have the circulation of the trucks. So it doesn't matter if we continue putting pressure on the number of trucks, if we don't open all the corridors, if we don't open all the crossings, if we don't ensure that the Jordan corridor is full functioning, and that's the reason why I went to Jordan to witness the situation, and I will comment that in 1 minute. And if we don't ensure that inside Gaza all the roads are able to circulate. Final point, Farhan, is precisely about the Jordan corridor. UNOPS was asked by the Jordan government and the charity, the Hashemite charity, to provide, with the support of the United States, the construction of 10 warehouses. We built those 10 warehouses in 3 months. We procured 300 trucks with the financial support of the United States. In the last 4 months, there is not one box, one pallet of the goods and commodities that are inside those warehouses that were brought to Gaza. After the incident that happened in the bridge 4 months ago, everything stopped from that warehouses to Gaza. So I think it's fundamental, and we have been making this call, and we make it again, it's crucial to use the Jordan corridor as a crucial corridor to maximize the provision of aid into Gaza. And I'm happy, of course, Farhan, to answer to any question. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'll now open the floor to questions. First question goes to Ibtisam.
Sorry, thank you. My name is Ibtisam Azim, Al Arabi Al Jadid newspaper. I have, you said you are not, first a follow-up, you said you are not allowed to bring, or to, the Jordanian border is not open. Can you clarify who is not opening that corridor with Jordan? And then also, are you in touch with the so-called Board of Peace? Are you coordinating with them? I know it's just being created, but and then there. What is your? I mean, I know you talked about the issue of finance and crossings, but if you could walk us through also what you talked with people, like in your visit in Gaza, things you talked to people and what they were telling you and what you saw. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start with the last question because it's the most important, is what people want, what they feel. Indeed, the call for action has a timeline that is different than diplomacy. We know that in New York, at the Security Council, in the capitals, we negotiate and we discuss. And there is this 20 points plan, there is a Security Council resolution, there is new hope. But what I got from the people is the here and now. The fact that they can't deal with the massive rains, they can't deal with the fact that the kids are all on the street. So they don't have a school in the way that they need. So these were the kind of things that I heard. They were concerned about the mines. I saw people saying that they were helping my team precisely, telling what they have heard in terms of explosives. So which allowed my team to go to a building and find unexploded ordnance. So it's the fact that the people are saying that we can't live in these tents. We need to go to these buildings. But we heard during the strikes that there was a strike in this building. So can you check if there is an unexploded ordnance? And there was. So this is the kind of practical things that the Gazians are asking. And I really think that we can do it. How? And I will go to your questions after. The element of the political will is fundamental. How can we, UNOPS, rehabilitate the power station if the spare parts are considered dual use and it cannot be brought? How can we remove all the rubble if the heavy machinery is not allowed? So the point is precisely this element of access and authorization. It's not the money alone. The financing is an element, the capacity is another element, but there is this crucial element of access that requires political will. And I would say that one of the fundamental things that we need is to remove the restrictions and this very restricted approach to dualism. Let me go to your point on Jordan. The way that we have designed the operation on the Jordan corridor was government to government, with UNOPS monitors on the ground, avoiding the transloading of cargo. So the same truck that would leave from Jordan would enter into Gaza without the need of the transloading of cargo. After the incident in the bridge 4 months ago, Israel didn't accept the operation to continue. So today, there are some commercial transit, but the humanitarian operation from the 10 warehouses to Gaza is blocked. And the warehouses that I visit are flooded by things that in a few weeks will no longer be valid because have expired. The equivalent, the number of boxes and pallets that we have inside those 10 warehouses are equivalent to 10,000 trucks. So you can see the amounts that are stuck inside those 10 warehouses. So this is answering to your question. About the Board of Peace, of course, we have no interaction for the time being, neither with the Board of Peace nor with the administrative committee, with technocrats from different areas of knowledge. But of course, we are eager to engage and supporting the development of Gaza. Thank you.
Deji?
Hi, Mr. Moreira da Silva. This is Xu Dezhi with China Central Television. After listening to your briefing, I have a question on the operation itself. We heard WFP, UNICEF, UNRWA, and all other UN agencies working to give humanitarian operations in Gaza, and now UNOPS. So can you tell us how you coordinate with other agencies? And you mentioned a lot, actually, that's overlapping with some other agencies. So what is the priority of UNOPS here in Gaza? What would differentiate UNOPS from other agencies? Thank you.
Excellent. It gives me the opportunity precisely to address the coordination and complementarity. We need all hands on deck. It's impossible 60 million tons of rubble to be removed by one single UN agency. We are working together with UNDP, with UNEP, with the UN Habitat, precisely to make sure that UN is ready to provide all the capacity that is needed. The same on electricity. While UNOPS is prepared to do the rehabilitation of the power station, UNDP is prepared to work on the energy grid. Another example is what we do on fuel. The moment UNRWA could no longer distribute the fuel, UNOPS, that was already procuring the fuel, we are distributing the fuel. The moment some of the UN agencies couldn't distribute the fuel because there was no storage capacity, we started distributing the fuel. So you can see that it's complementarity. It's a way to ensure that we work within our mandates. For instance, as you know, UNOPS is a non-programmatic agency. We just do operations. We are a project-based organization. Other agencies are programmatic. Of course, we rely on their program and strategy to implement some project. But I just gave you some examples of areas where on electricity, energy, fuel, on the rubble, we work together. Finally, is the enabler. UNOPS is an enabler. The 2720 mechanism, it's a way for all UN agencies to plug in their requests, and also other NGOs. They plug in their requests on consignments. We approve those consignments based on the priorities. It's not first come, first served. It makes no sense to approve a consignment of some commodities if that commodity is already highly prevalent. So the role of UNOPS is like in a traffic control tower in an airport, is deciding what should be brought and with each priority. So we are enabling the other UN agencies to operate through this one-stop shop approval for all aid. And then with the monitors on the ground, we track the transit, the crossing, the corridors, and this brings accountability. I would say this is very important for the next phase. If we have managed to raise a level of accountability and transparency with no parallel in the past, so that you go to the website and you know exactly what was approved and rejected and why, this will be very important for the long term, when we'll need to bring much more capacity, and accountability would be obviously a requirement. Thank you.
Thanks. Abdul Hamid.
Thank you so much for the briefing. My name is Abdul Hamid Sayam from the Arabic daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. First, I want to know how many days you spent in Gaza, if you can tell us, and where did you go exactly? And did you cross the what you call yellow line, where Israel in control of part of Gaza? And the second, if you can also tell us more about the relations between UNOPS and Israel. Do they make your life easier? Do they give you the visa? Did you feel under any kind of pressure from the Israelis? And the last is about the situation of the people under this severe weather situation in Gaza. And, you know, 7 babies had died because of severe cold. Did you have an eyewitness? Did you eyewitness any of these, of the suffering of the people due to the not only the bombardment and the killing and the destruction, but also the weather, and what you can do about that? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I spent the day in Gaza, entered very early and left, so it was a full day in Gaza. By the way, my colleague Ramiz, the resident coordinator, have been there for the last 3 days. As I said, it's my 3rd time in Gaza, and there is no restriction. The UNOPS circulates in Gaza based on the needs. And today, as you imagine, I couldn't go to all places as it's difficult to circulate. I entered from the Kerem Shalom, went to Der Albala, Nuseirat, then Khan Yunis, went almost to Gaza City. So you can see that it was a quite comprehensive visit, which was quite helpful precisely for the point you made about the conditions of the people due to the severe weather in the last few days. I was impressed, as you imagine, by the impact of the flooding, of the heavy rain in the conditions of the people. Today it was a sunny day, but we could see the impact from the last few days, and we can also see that the people have to escape, as I said, had to find a place that is not safe in buildings that were almost collapsing. But I want to emphasize one thing, which is I saw, compared with my previous visit, that the amount of food in the markets is obviously non-comparable, which means that the international organizations, the system, namely the UN system, has been at its best, bringing massive support in the last few months, and therefore it has been important to the situation of famine and starvation that Gaza was facing. Regarding Israel, we as you know, we have been working with the mechanism. The mechanism requires approvals, and we have to have a very direct engagement with Israel, precisely to ensure that when something is rejected, there is a clear information about why something is rejected. So the answer to your question is yes, we engage with Israel, and I had the chance to visit, as I mentioned, Gaza 3 times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Islam Doğru from Anadolu Agency. I have checked the UN 2720 mechanism site, and if my understanding is correct, it seems winter supplies make up only around 6-7% of the total aid. Given the harsh winter condition in Gaza now, what is the main reason that that's too low? Is it something more logistical, like you don't have any clear road enough to distribute, or mostly about the Israeli side restriction that affecting these low proportions?
Okay, I couldn't understand just the first sentence. You were mentioning, which item were you mentioning?
I'm talking about winter supplies. I checked
winter
the
supply.
website, and again, my understanding is correct. It seems like around 6-7% of the total aid in the graphic. So it seems like very low considering the harsh winter conditions at the moment.
Well, I think that the point you are making is a very important point. The UN and Farhan and Steph have been saying this very often in the last few days. We need more support to deal with the winter. It's not just the food is also the non-food items. The problem of the Jordan corridor, it's precisely what is behind this. I wouldn't say that it's the only answer, but it's part of the answer. The things that are parked in Jordan are precisely crucial for the winter. And you have another reason for my clear call for let's open the corridor, because a significant part of what is inside the 10 warehouses in Jordan are precisely important for the support of the people to deal with the winter and with the severe raining for the last few days. But let me add something, if you allow me, which is because we have been talking about the 2720 mechanism. Not everything goes through the mechanism. So the mechanism has allowed a degree of transparency and accountability that is significant, but there are still some sort of bypassing of the mechanism. So one of the things that I've been asking, namely to Israel, but also to other protagonists, is the need that not only the Cyprus corridor and the Jordan corridor are providing all the information about what is coming and what is being rejected, but also all corridors and all protagonists bring it to UNOPS, so that you, when you go to the website as you did, you can also see what is happening in other corridors. And I even think that in the future, member states may consider that since the mechanism has been an element of trust, as had happened in Yemen with also the UNOPS managed UN VIM mechanism to inspect all the vessels that go from Djibouti to Yemen, maybe in the future for the reconstruction of Gaza, even the things that are coming from the private sector, if there is that objective, we could do it. So the mechanism, so of course we are not designing that, but if the political will decides or triggers a request for UNOPS, can you track, monitor, be accountable, report on all things that are coming to Gaza? The answer is yes.
If I may just follow up, this is sort of suggestion. If it's in your authority, wouldn't be more convenient for journalists to release a sort of monthly statement from UN 2720 mechanism? Because I checked, it seems like last press statements you guys published in July 2027. The data and graphics sometimes seems like a little confusing and complex. This is just as a suggestion for the future purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of access to information, the information is updated. So if you go to the website, you have the most recent information. Another thing is any kind of report. So a more comprehensive report and analytics. I think that we are always open to go further in this kind of analysis. But by the way, let me stress that if there is something that I'm getting as a positive element from member states, it's precisely the mechanism, because it's the only source of information that can be used to scrutinize, namely why some things are rejected. Because this is one of the things, you know, in the past, there was a bit of subjectivity. There was a list of items rejected, but then the reality very often was not in line with the list. But now that everything that is rejected is public, it obviously creates a level of accountability that is important to everyone, including for the journalists. Thank you.
Okay, we only have time for one last question. Noreen?
Thank you, sir. My name is Noreen Hussein with IPS News. Just want to follow up on the stated figure that you've given for approximately $53 billion, I believe UNOPS will need for its recovery and reconstruction plan for Gaza. Can I just ask on what is the period for which, how many years is this number projected for? Like how many years will, is it sort of the, is it expected for? And my second question is, during your visit to Gaza, and actually I understand you're actually there, you also visited a few other countries, including Qatar and Jordan. Have you actually spoken to members, business leaders or members of the private sector about how they can contribute or support UNOPS's work in Gaza? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me clarify that the $53 billion is an assessment conducted by the World Bank, by the United Nations, and by the European Commission. As part of the $53 billion, there is a first component, I think it's around 30 billion, that would need to be prioritized. So it's a phased approach, but it's not UNOPS. So of course, we will need everyone, the UN, private sector. $53 billion. It's about the needs, and I think that as you mentioned, the private sector will need to play an important role. We are a demand-driven organization, and we are in a readiness mode. The figure that I mentioned, where we would be ready to immediately provide our response, is, for instance, on the Gaza power plant. That the rehabilitation of the power plant, which only today has one turbine partially functioning, but because the network is not available, it's not providing any capacity to the grid. But if we want to rehabilitate the power station, it would require $10 million. So I know that we talk about billions, but just with $10 million, with the rehabilitation of the power station and with the rehabilitation of the networks, that of course it's additional amount, we would be able to power Gaza. For instance, before the war, so that you have a sense of the impact of the power station. Before the war, the power station was responsible to provide between 8 and 12 hours of electricity to the people. So you can see the impact in case we can rehabilitate the power station. That's the point that I was making, that while we prepare the ground for the plan for the reconstruction, it's very important, and I would say again, Farhan, it's 30 seconds, there are some things that should be in our wish list, more than the wish list, the commitment list, that includes fuel, shelters, rehabilitation of the power station, rehabilitation of the damaged infrastructure on grids, on electricity, water, sewage, the damage assessment of the buildings, and obviously the opening of all crossings, the opening of all corridors, and a much more open approach to the dual use, to allow heavy machinery and spare parts to be brought to Gaza. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I'd like once more to thank our guest, Jorge Moreira da Silva, the Executive Director of UNOPS. Muito obrigado.
Obrigado. Thank you, Fernando.
Thanks. Have a good afternoon, everyone.